Thanks so much, Lance, for coming over. Really been looking forward to this for a long time.
Same.
Our goals are aligned in so many ways, and you have a so much deeper understanding of these issues than I do. You know, Hurricane Helene rocked North Carolina. We got widespread 20 inches of rain. We got 30 inches in Buskey, North Carolina. The mountains in places literally melted. In fact, right underneath us, this whole area washed away. The Porch was sitting almost hanging off a cliff after Helene, and this is one of thousands of homes that suffered this, and 2-mile-long landslides, incredible destruction. There have been some major issues with the response, and you, Lance, have stepped up to fill in the gaps. Your organization has been instrumental in getting us back on our feet, and it's been incredible, and I'm excited about the opportunity to talk to you about it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It really means a lot, and it feels good to have somebody across the table that is advocating for people in Western North Carolina. I think that's a really important part. You know, it's not this like political issue all the time. It's like, what do people in this region need? And it feels really good that you're here listening to people in this region and what they need.
Thank you. Thank you. And we need a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still in recovery. I mean, yes, the waters receded. A lot of the trash is gone. A lot of the roads are reopened, but financially, there are people like me who've lost huge amount of money and can handle the loss.
Yeah.
But there are people who've lost just as much or more and still don't have any real help in rebuilding their lives, their businesses, their homes.
North Carolina alone estimates $60 billion in damages, and that includes the economy, housing, 100%. I mean, the amount of damage that this storm did, utilities, transportation, basically like everything in our state, and 60 billion in damages, but right now there's, I believe, 26 billion unfunded, which is just a massive load.
That's hard to even fathom.
Yeah.
That much damage and that much of a shortfall.
Absolutely.
And where it hits.
It's been tough to experience and tough to be a part of on our end of just trying to do the right thing and trying to respond and trying to care for people that need support, and then seeing continual cuts of the funding and just general lack of funding, and where there is some funding, some major roadblocks in getting that into the hands of the people that need it. It's tough to experience for sure.
Yeah. And it seems like, from a political perspective, being a politician, I can talk openly about this. I do think that the current administration, both nationally and our current representative, Chuck Edwards, have failed to get the money together and get the resources together for us. And I actually don't think Chuck hates us. I don't think he's against us. I just think he's between a rock and a hard place, and he is choosing to favor his loyalty to the federal administration over his obligation to help North Carolina. I'm disappointed in his decision to do so. I can't say I'm that surprised, just because I've seen how well he toes the party line in order to preserve his own political career. And it's a tough thing. I'm sure he's not happy about it either.
Right.
But I would urge him to reconsider his current course of action, especially when he was standing right beside President Trump in Swannanoa for Trump's photo op, where Trump was lambasting FEMA, the organization that was one of the main sources of federal support for getting us back on our feet, and calling it worthless and defunding it and firing 2,000 of their employees already. And Chuck's just standing beside him, just nodding his head like that's all okay. And that's not okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to see us focused on helping each other and looking across party lines and getting back on our feet, finishing the process of
Absolutely.
getting us back on our feet.
Yeah, and I think there's like some things we can agree about, everybody across the board, right? Like FEMA response was really poor in our area. I think our state's response, the government response, was really poor in our area. I mean, we stepped up a couple days after the storm, started delivering food and water to friends the day after the storm. 2 days after the storm, we saw that nothing was coming in to help out, and so we got more water, got more food, and passed it out in West Asheville because there was nothing coming, right? And that response, and I mean, it continued from there. The lack of organization and the lack of like clear chain of command gave us the opportunity to do what we were doing. But I really question, was it our place? It shouldn't have been our place to do what we did, right? Like,
I can't believe that a bunch of kayakers and a bunch of out-of-towners and a bunch of everybody stepped up to replace the failures of the state and federal response. It was amazing. It was heartwarming.
Yeah.
But on the other side, it's a little confusing that, you know, the National Guard says, hey, give us 24 hours, we'll give you an army.
Yeah.
And it was, 4+ days before the East Side State Guard came. Like, Tennessee had Guard from Memphis coming over to their counties affected within 24 hours. They were there. They were on the spot. They were on it. And the same with our state troopers. The East Side State Troopers were, a week behind.
Yeah.
When they had said, give us 24 hours, we will be there in force.
Yeah.
So it's a little baffling that we didn't unite and come together as a state. It's a little scary.
Yeah.
But to me, it's just as inspiring that the response from people like you went across party lines. That Helene didn't care if we were Democrats or Republicans, liberals or conservatives, and neither did we. We rose up together as a community, helping each other out, and that part is just beautiful and inspiring.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree. I think the Helene experience really showed our community what is possible when we put aside political beliefs and really fight for what's needed and what's good for everybody in our community, the common good.
Yeah, amen to that.
There were so many examples of people working side by side to advocate for people that needed it, and typically would not be seen working together. It's wild that we had that experience and we got to see that and experience that. And I do think that brings me a lot of hope, the future of our region especially, and our country. Just seeing our response in times of adversity is really important. And I think our country faces a time of adversity right now. I hope that we are able to respond in the same way that a lot of our communities did during Helene.
Yes.
And banding together and putting aside certain beliefs to come together for the common good.
Yeah, I think we absolutely need to bring this community spirit to national politics.
Yeah.
I remember one of the days I jumped in with a crew of very liberal Asheville kayakers to run into this neighborhood and meet up in this church that was very conservative, very on the red side of the political spectrum, and just the coordination with them was amazing. They had this grocery store set up with all these items for free for anyone in the community, and they had us grab our raft and paddle out to a trailer that had accidentally Dukes of Hazzard launched itself out into the middle of the Tow River, and hey, you guys got rafts, and paddle out there and get the generators and get the food off that trailer, salvage what we can, and help us stack it in the church. And we even talked about politics during that. It wasn't that we were afraid to talk about politics. It wasn't that we set it aside. It was that we knew that was less important than the mission of getting together and working.
Absolutely. What a cool, inspiring story.
It was fun.
I don't know the other candidates in this race, but I think it's pretty incredible that you were there putting in the hours.
I'm sure they were too. I'm certain the others were there too. There are some inspiring candidates jumping into this race.
Good.
And whether it's me or one of them that picks up the mantle and goes up into this final contest, I hope that we can get somebody in the final result that represents North Carolina first.
100%, yeah. And I think it has to be a person that cares about their community and acts on that, right? Ideals are wonderful and morals and values are awesome, but I think it really comes down to action. That's something that we saw during the hurricane. It's we could have ideals and values about money coming to the area and hope and all that, but until we put action and put the community first and make things happen, then I don't know that ideals and values really mean that much.
Right, until you put them into action.
Yeah.
And I've been having lots of conversations with folks across the aisle. I've been trying to understand what brought us to this place politically where we're so adversarial that we aren't working together.
Yeah.
And the answers I get are not philosophical. They're not based on these dog whistle ideas that get us fired up against each other. They're based on, I want affordable health care. I want a good recovery from Helene.
Totally.
I want a government that doesn't regulate my business to death. I want safe cities. I want intelligent border policy. And we can do all these things without setting aside our ideals on either side of that.
Yeah,
and we can
100%.
respect each other's ideals and still come together to solve these everyday problems that are facing America.
Yeah.
And one thing that kind of brought to mind as we were talking about this cooperation is I bet you've got some great stories of individuals, certain people who had these experiences and that your community, your organization was able to help, or others were able to help. Throw a few of those at us if you don't mind. And chime in as well for us. I know you're behind the camera there, but flip that puppy around and tell us some stories here.
Early on in hurricane relief, my partner and I came from Atlanta and got involved with Lance. We're friends with him, had paddled with him before, and we're only really seeing his posts on Facebook as far as local response goes, and we're both in the paddling community. I've lived up here since 2019, and so we're like, we can't just not do anything for our people in our community. We know this area. We know that we could help if we were up there, so relocated up here, and we determined very quickly that where I was going to be most useful was on the phone, connecting with people, figuring out what they needed, how to get them what they needed, and just have somebody on the phone all the time taking those phone calls. And I was able to get my phone number on the radio. Kiss 99.9. It was Kiss Country.
They were awesome.
Stellar. Oh my
that's
God.
great.
Dude, they crushed. They
For
were
like
awesome.
2 or 3 weeks nonstop.
Yeah.
The only coverage that they had was hurricane related.
Yeah, there was like a
24/7.
live hotline. People would call and say, has anybody heard from this person? Can somebody check on this person? Our community needs this. And it would just be people calling in, we have this, we can help in this way. They 99.9 changed the landscape of response in this
really
area.
did.
Because with everything else down, with like cell signal and everything down, being able to at least listen on the radio to updates was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were having trouble. We were trying to contact the radio station because we were like, we are a local organization. We are doing these wellness checks. Like, if we can get your list instead of just having to scramble to write down a phone number and try to locate these people, if we can get in contact with them, then they can get us their list, was like my thought. But nobody from the station was answering, and I was like, I'm just going to keep calling in until somebody answers. Got my number live. And that was such a crazy changing point in our relief, because we went from 30 missions a day to over 80 missions a day.
Wow.
And I was getting phone calls from Oregon, from California, from across the country, asking us to go check on their family members. And I remember one of the most impactful scenarios that we were able to help with was helping an inmate know that his mother had survived Hurricane Helene and was doing okay physically. And like he'd called my phone, and I was in between phone calls constantly, so I hung up with who I was with to answer his phone call in case it was an emergency. I was so glad that I did, and we were able to send an EMS from a student from Western out immediately to go perform a wellness check, talk to the mom, tell her about the situation, and just, it was really cool. And the inmate has since reached out to me to thank me and thank our whole team for having this relationship with him and helping him know that his mother was good.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you, Emma.
Yeah.
Any other like good stories you guys can think of? Crazy stuff that happened? People that you really, that by helping gave you a boost and let you think, okay, yeah, these 80 plus 90 whatever hour work weeks you guys were throwing in the early part of this, that made this worth it. That made you see that, like, yeah, we're really doing something here.
I think for me, I didn't handle a lot of the operations and the missions and all of that.
You were probably forced to step away from it to coordinate the overall program.
But I think that even seeing that and the amount of people that have told me, if we did not have Helene Rebuild Collaborative to go and dedicate energy to, we would have been in so much of a worse place as well. If we were just sitting on our
side of
butt,
it that I haven't really looked at. That people need an outlet. We're frustrated. We want to help the community, and you gave them a way to do that.
Absolutely. We started getting requests for volunteers to go hang out with children in communities that had been extremely devastated by Hurricane Helene. Not only were we getting students in the area that had been impacted by this coming with their families to help volunteer with us, but there were teachers, there were social workers, there were therapists, there were moms and dads who were just like, what can we do? We're good with kids. Deploy us, and that's what we did, and it was really cool.
Early days, we funded a shed for the town of, it was either Marshall or Hot Springs.
Yeah, I remember that.
Basically, their hardware store had gotten just leveled, and everything was gone, and so...
And that's the problem when you're trying to rebuild everything, and your hardware store got washed down into Lake Douglas.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there was also a lot of looting going on in the early days. It was just like, people were in survival mode, and so they wanted to get what they needed. So their store had been looted as well as flooded.
Oh, man.
And so we helped deliver a shed to that community, which allowed them to have a mobile storage and utility store for their local folks to be able to go and get what they needed from their local community and not have to drive all the way to Weaverville or wherever. So that was pretty cool. Big impact I feel like we made. And the campers have been pretty huge as well, like delivering campers and RVs to folks has been pretty massive. I mean,
you got any happy camper stories where you're dropping a camper that just changes somebody's life, and they say,
I got a video
man,
text.
I can get out of the rain and the cold, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna be okay.
Yeah, we got a video text sent to our group chat of 3 little girls thanking us for helping get their family set up with a camper.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
You remember
awesome.
that?
Yeah, for sure. It's wild. I think, and I'm sure folks like at Beloved and other small organizations have so many stories and so many huge wins within the community to share. I think, yeah, of course, Red Cross has some wins as well, but I think like the way that small organizations are able to leverage the dollar that is donated is wild, how much more efficient we're able to do that, and how that makes such a huge impact in our communities.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Beloved was running on a little bitty shoestring
Yeah.
from the word go. That's what they had
Yeah.
always done. And for me, watching them scale this thing up the couple days that my family and I went and volunteered with them,
Yeah.
just watching this operation that was just this tiny, like basically a 2-woman show,
Yeah.
turn into this just massive
Massive.
blown up operation, running all of this equipment and
Yeah.
all visiting all these people and coordinating these tiny houses. And it blew me away what they're
Yeah.
capable of and what they did.
For sure. That was huge. I got to give a shout out to the United Cajun Navy as well. They're an organization that started out of Katrina, right? They're like a New
okay.
Orleans-based nonprofit. And man, they have, especially early days, but I think they continue to support in major ways. They've been sending volunteers, they've been sending resources. I think it goes to show just like the impact of organizations that were born and bred for disaster response like this, and their ability to be nimble and mobile in the ways that they respond. It's like
Which
pretty wild.
brings back the importance of interstate cooperation.
Totally.
Of making sure there's no regulatory barriers, and in fact that there's regulatory encouragement and coordination of different agencies.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that was a big idea. I remember one of the days we went down to Bat Cave, we went and talked to firefighters down there.
Yeah.
And they didn't have any communication. We were telling them
Yeah.
things about the disaster because they were physically there and didn't have service.
Exactly.
And we had our inReaches, we had our kayaker technology
Yeah,
down there,
right.
and we were getting them in touch and saying, hey, we know this community needs this and this needs that.
Yeah.
And all they knew was what was in walking distance.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
The coordination of what they could do was so limited. And I think if we had, and I think this falls under the responsibility of FEMA.
Yeah.
And this is where I think FEMA was their major failure, that they should have taken a leadership position right from the start, coordinating local firefighters, EMS, organizations, and getting y'all together to make sure you knew where the efforts were needed and where you
100%.
could be used best.
I mean, we went up to Kentucky when those floods started happening. I think that was in December, maybe it was January. We delivered a few loads of supplies up to Kentucky that were kind of left over from our first round of response. In 5 days, they had a more coordinated, more effective operation than our region ever saw. In 5 days, they had a central command station in Pikeville, Kentucky, that was overseen by one emergency management employee. Well, I think he was fire and emergency management staff for the county. He had his central command station that was receiving all sorts of supplies and goods. And then he was coordinating with each individual hub, getting them exactly what they needed, and being able to act as a central chain of command.
Yeah.
Where was that?
I never saw that.
We were that. Like,
You were that.
That's the crazy thing.
Fabra was
like,
that.
Yeah.
But there was no national or even state response that stepped into that crucial role.
Yeah. And so that's the kind of stuff that really has to change. There is no reason that we as a state did not have any systems in place to be able to respond on that level. That was really poor response.
And that's something I can fix.
Yeah.
If given the opportunity, I can fix that.
Yeah.
I can cross party lines. I can
Yeah.
get together and say, hey, let's do this better next
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking about the admittedly lackluster response by federal and state agencies, which kind of highlights the importance of the private response, the charitable response, with organizations like Helene Rebuild Collaborative and other organizations that stepped up to the plate. And can you speak to kind of other organizations that did well and even some that did poorly, and kind of where our money's being spent well, where our efforts are being put forth well to help us out of this?
Absolutely. I think it's like a huge learning moment in disaster response, and especially in a unique area like Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee, where response looks differently from community to community, and where local people are the best equipped to manage disaster response and emergency response and get into some of those untouched areas. I know that our response specifically was unique in that we put our skills as outdoor people to a use. We were mountain biking and dirt biking. We had a group that kayaked down the Broad River and the Rocky Broad River, towing a line of fiber optic cable so that Chimney Rock could get service and get connection to the outside world and therefore coordinate
huge.
their response. Yeah, absolutely. I think that highlights the importance of the engagement of local agencies and local organizations. Beloved did an incredible job at responding in the Asheville
I'm a huge
area.
fan of Beloved Asheville.
Yeah.
Those ladies have got it wired. They do a great job.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job and have continued doing a great job at advocating for our area and responding, supporting community members that are in need. I think that Mountain True has done a fantastic job at the response and the cleanup. They are hard at work continuing to clean up our riverbeds and make them safe for recreation again and to preserve and support natural ecosystems. So they're doing fantastic. French Broad River Academy, I mean, our operation would not be possible without French Broad River Academy and the way that they stepped up and allowed the use of their fleet of vans, of their warehouse space, of everything just to be able to respond. And I mean, that bolstered an effort that created outcomes in over 13 different counties, delivered resources and aid, allowed us to use a lot of their camping gear and tents and stuff, which probably some are still being used, you know, especially the camp stoves and all of that. I mean, we took all that directly from their school supply. They were very happy to supply it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, their response was incredible. I think some bigger organizations have done pretty decent. Samaritan's Purse has been instrumental in some of the like muck out cleanup efforts that have been really vital for our area. I think that they have received pretty large funding and they have a massive endowment. So they really have a lot to work with, but they have helped out some of our homeowners. Unfortunately, I think their efforts are starting to dwindle in our area where we still need a ton of support. So I think that there are other organizations that maybe haven't done as well as like the Red Cross. In the early days, our nonprofit was supporting a Red Cross facility with medical supplies. We were delivering medical supplies and staffing and volunteers to their shelter and to their medical facility, which is like pretty wild for a multi-million. I don't know what the budget of Red Cross is, but it's
probably
massive.
Billions.
Yeah, and the fact that we were supporting the Red Cross is like pretty bewildering. A while ago you asked what kind of response needs to change and how we can do it better. I think it's really important to recognize that in most of these communities there are already organizations that are ready to support, or there are local people that create responses that are very informed in their local areas. And so if you support and help those local responses, I think the efficiency and the efficacy of the dollar spent is going to be way larger.
Absolutely.
You know,
organizations that already have the connections, that already have the relationships on the ground, that already know the terrain and how to get around and how to talk to people in their own language as neighbors. I think you're right that we do need to foster that local response.
Yeah. And the ability for like a small organization to function extremely efficiently is very important, right? In an organization like the Red Cross, I don't know how much of their budget is ate up by paying staffing fees, by paying administrative fees, by paying facilities and all of that. But I would guess that it's well above 30-40% of their budget is spent on all of that. Whereas a small nonprofit like ours, I mean, for the first 3 months, nobody took a paycheck at all. Everything was volunteer based. We donated hundreds, thousands of hours of volunteer hours just to make sure that like we could get this thing rolling and get it off the ground. And even now, our overhead in terms of monthly expenses compared to our budget is less than 30%, which is like wildly efficient. Yeah. And that includes,
I mean, for something this complex, it is incredible.
It includes all salary and include any sort of monthly overhead of paying for our storage containers and our storage units and for tools and
keeping the lights on, keeping the website going, you know, keeping the vehicles on the road.
Yeah.
It's
so below 30% is like wildly efficient. And that means that like more of the money raised and donated goes directly to the people that really need it. And so that's like, I think, been a disconnect and something that people are wildly frustrated about for good reason. Is that, let me look at the statistic. We've seen billions of dollars so far. Our expected funded in the whole disaster response is like $25 billion.
It's an unfathomable amount of money.
It's a massive amount of money. right now we've got about like $26 billion that have been chipped into our area. But when that goes to massive organizations, massive efforts like the Red Cross, a wild proportion of that money doesn't actually make it into the community of the people that were affected. And so I think like drawing that back to this response and future responses, having some sort of system that you can vet and like ensure that money is going to the right people is really important. It can't just go to the ones that are in place that do disaster response, right?
Yeah, and Charity Navigator does a great job of that. Don't know if you're familiar with them, but they are really on the ball with looking at those overhead numbers, looking at what's benefited, who's benefited, making sure these agencies are efficient, but they're reliant solely on donations. Like they don't have any federal funding. And to me, they should be federally funded. They're doing an incredible job. We don't need to create a new agency to do this purpose. We just need to fund the one that's already doing a really good job of making charity donations dependable and knowing that you're getting your money's worth when you donate.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And then also on the flip side of that, to be able to enforce when money isn't being spent well and directly for the cause, it's like,
for sure,
it's huge.
We need eyes on that.
Yeah, we have to have that, and we have to have accountability in where those dollars are being spent, because at the end of the day, we are $26 billion underfunded in this area. Every dollar counts. And if we don't have more and more money coming to this area, or 50% of every dollar is being taken and paid to some administrator that isn't
serving the purpose.
It just is, it's like wild. I mean, the amount of people that have totally disrupted their whole life just to respond in a way that is meaningful and be able to directly apply their efforts and energy. There are a lot of people that I've talked to that have gone into debt, like I have, to make this response happen, or to coordinate their own avenues of response. And so, unfortunately, even a lot of the local grant funding doesn't fund organizations like ours, right? Like the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina and the Bridge Foundation, they want to see a long history of successful financial management and financial responsibility.
Which on the one hand makes sense, but on the other hand, who's actually getting the job done right now?
Right. When you have an organization like ours that's created for a specific purpose, and that we will tap out when that purpose is finished, and we are all in on this specific purpose. We're not just trying to float a big budget so that we can do other things that are tangentially related or not related at all. Every dollar spent goes towards Helene victims. And so if you can find a way to vet programs like ours from the get-go, then
in real time.
In real time.
And then move that money where it's actually going to work the best.
Absolutely. I mean, if we had a couple $1 million of funding right now,
you could rip.
We would be,
because you've got the structure, you've got the logistics, you've got the relationships, you've got the workers. Like, you've got it set up.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a backlog of 30 plus projects that we could start completing right now. And unfortunately, that funding is not coming to us via government agencies. That funding is not coming to us from the state. We are 100% funded on private donations, which is kind of cool to be able to say, and we're proud of that. But it's really tough because, at the end of the day, we've got millions of dollars of projects that we could complete right now if we had the funding.
And I'd like to revisit, at least momentarily, the idea of efficiency and size of organizations. Your organization is efficient because it's small. But as a business owner, as an investor, I know that if you scale a business property, it increases your efficiency because you have
100%.
One financial coordinator, you have one CEO, you have one main headquarters. It's actually cheaper and more efficient to run a larger organization than a smaller one, which gets me even more baffled as to why FEMA, Red Cross, these other agencies are spending so much money to provide a relatively small slice of the actual boots on the ground help that we've needed in this. And that's something I want to fix. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fixed with sledgehammers and chainsaws and hoorah. It's going to be fixed with a lot of hard work of technically looking at the inside and outside of all these agencies, finding the inefficiencies, finding the staff that is not performing well, and either re-educating them, replacing them in the organization, or completely replacing them with someone else, or eliminating unnecessary jobs. We're going to have to do it.
Absolutely.
But we got to do it right. It's not as simple as just hitting it on the head with a hammer and saying, you're more efficient now. We got to be smart about this. And it saddens me to see agencies that are not efficient becoming less efficient in a supposed effort to save money. it irks me. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm getting a little aggro here,
No,
but it really bothers me how much of our money is not being spent well.
I totally agree. Yeah, I 100% agree that government efficiency is an absolute vital part of our society moving forward in a meaningful way. Like, I think that if we are going to be able to provide and care for our citizens and like become a world force again, we have to be able to be extremely efficient and cut funding for parts of our government that are not being productive at all. And with that being said, it has to be informed funding cuts. And it has to be informed efficiency increase.
Nuanced, precise, and effective.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
So tell me, Lance.
Yeah.
Tell me some stories. Tell me some people you've helped, some crazy situations you've had. You know, some stuff that keeps you inspired to keep doing this, because it's hard. What you're doing is not easy.
Yeah. Man, early days. Maybe it was like 12 days in. One of our good friends, Ferraro, hiked in and cut out a family.
That was high intensity working with him.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome.
Dude is an animal.
He was great.
He's incredible.
He and his dad, they hiked in and they cut out a family that had not seen the outside world in 12 days. They thought the world had ended, basically. So it's pretty wild that, he made first contact, helped them know that everything was okay-ish out there, and helped them evacuate, which is huge. One of the folks were rebuilding his home for him. He is a single dad, 3 kids, and there's this interesting gap in what some of the funding is covering, right? He is a real estate agent, so he makes decent money. But he's a single dad raising 3 kids.
Which is expensive.
Yeah. He's got a pretty nice house. It's a 110-year-old farmhouse, 115-year-old farmhouse built in 1910.
Yeah.
And it had 3+ feet of moving water in it up there in Barnersville. And our organization is in probably about $50,000 into this project at this point. The amount of value that we've increased his home is way over 50,000. I mean, like the amount of damage that he experienced is ridiculous. We've basically had to redo the whole structural flooring and everything in his home just to be able to make it viable to even rebuild. Replacing all the siding on the first story, replacing all the windows. I mean, everything is just brand new in that first floor because of how much damage he got. But he's in that weird in-between where a housing and urban development grant that's coming out, there are some precursors or some prerequisites to who receives that money, and one of those is your income, what percentage of income you make compared to the average median income. And he'd be disqualified from that because he makes too much money. But he also outside of the 100-year floodplain, and so he's not receiving insurance money because he didn't have insurance because it wasn't required. He's been denied by FEMA.
And he still needs a house.
And he still needs a house. I mean, he's still paying a mortgage on a house that's not livable. And so we've been able to help them secure a camper for him and his kids. And we are hard at work. We're having the trades come in and do some work there. That brings up another point that we need to talk about reciprocal licensing. This is a huge response thing.
So I was meaning to ask you about the regulations, the building regulations, the permitting, the codes. I know they've suspended a lot of that, and I know they're trying to make it easier, but part of the reason why housing is so expensive in the first place, and I see this firsthand, is that the codes are not well written.
Totally.
They're not fair. They hurt the little guy developer and the little guy builder, and they make housing a lot more expensive.
I feel like very strongly that a lot of building code is best interest for the consumer, right? That health and safety is at the forefront for the most part of a lot of that building code. And so therefore, I don't think building code should just go away.
No,
right? I don't think
we
it
need
should
building
just disappear.
codes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It is very important. And there is a lot of struggle that we are facing as a community in this response, in that a lot of people, first off, 73,000 homes damaged in North Carolina alone. 73,000 damaged or destroyed. So the amount of work that needs to be done is absurd.
Incredible.
And most of those 73,000 are going to need HVAC, plumbing, electric, because anything destroyed by water is going to need all of that.
Those systems are delicate. They do not do well with muddy floodwater.
Absolutely not. And so right there you see a massive overload in the capacity of our workforce. It's already dwindling, right? We talked about education being really important. Our workforce is dwindling in those trades, and they already have been backlogged months in advance pre-storm. And now you have even more homes damaged and destroyed needing HVAC, plumbing, electric. Man, we're seeing massive bills. Like we were quoted $52,000 to do HVAC in one of the homes that we're rebuilding in that home in Barnetsville. And it's really brutal, and it's their price to be able to get in there quick and do the work that we wanted done for central heating and air in that house. We've been able to work with other people to get that quote lower and lower and lower, and at the same time, we've had a licensed electrician, a licensed plumber, and a licensed HVAC professional from other states on our job site willing to do the work and willing to help out that have not been able to do the work because of licensure in North Carolina.
And that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that. And I see the same thing with nursing. You know, I've worked for years and years as a nurse, and oh yeah, here's this need. We need you right now in this place, but it's going to take 3 months and 50 hours of work to get your license in this place.
Totally.
And I can't afford to do that.
Yeah. In the organized government response, there needs to be an effort to offer reciprocal licensing and release need for the person to be licensed in North Carolina.
Absolutely.
I'm not asking
That
for a
sounds like an
change in the
easy
code.
step.
Yeah, it's happened
like a
in
really
many other
easy step.
disasters. It's just our government in the state is dragging our feet, and it needs to change because we're here. We're about 8 months in, 7-8 months.
About right. Yeah. Yeah. It's been a long time for us to still be this early in that part of the rebuilding. There's a lot of work still to do this far out.
Absolutely. And the farther we get from the date of that experience, the more people forget about what happened.
Yes.
And so we had a huge surge of labor early on.
Mm-hmm.
There was like slow process in offering permits and everything based on like, is it safe to rebuild here? There was a lot of questioning and pausing on permitting in some areas.
There would be that.
Yeah.
And some for good reason, but some that should have taken days instead of months.
Absolutely. And now the dragging the feet on the labor side of it is pretty wild because, I mean, for a small nonprofit, we've raised over $600,000, which is great for a grassroots organization.
Yeah,
We've been crushing it.
Lance.
And if you look at that, we were over $75,000 in HVAC, plumbing, and electric on that one job alone. That's over a tenth of our budget on just the trades in one side of it. And we've been able to reduce
I'm sure you had better
costs.
deals coming down from Virginia or up from South Carolina.
Free labor. We just buy materials and they will do the work.
Yeah, all that
It's really frustrating, and it affects everything is passed down to the consumer. The consumer pays the price. The consumer in this situation being the people that just lost their home, that just experienced massive trauma, and they're now being told that they can't have their plumbing done by somebody that's out of state. What we're asking isn't for code to go away, for code to change. We're asking for somebody that understands how to read code and do things to code to be able to come and do things to code in North Carolina.
Absolutely. And there is a national code. There are national certifications for GCs, which I got when I started my real estate business.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can do that with the trades. We can set things up to where when we have these disasters, we can move fluidly across state lines and cooperate.
Yeah. So I think that's a huge response thing that needs to change in this one and in future responses. You know, I think 2027 unfortunately is going to be a little too late for the like reciprocal licensing code and all that. But I think
I can help set us up for next time.
I think so.
If given the opportunity, these are the kind of changes I can make. These are bipartisan ideas. Nobody's going to oppose them. We just need to stop yapping at each other and clawing each other's eyeballs out long enough to sit down across the aisle and fix these basic problems that are hurting North Carolina and the nation as a whole.
Yeah, we agree there are problems and deficiencies and we need support. And let's actually get together and make that happen.
Amen to that.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.